So stoked to be here today with Christian Göran. And Christian's all the way in Stockholm in Sweden, and I'm in Bali in Indonesia. And we're talking about a very special project called Dome on Lombok. So a super international meeting today, very global.
Yes, really.
Christian, thanks so much for taking the time. I'm glad we could make this time to get connected. And I'm so excited to hear a little bit of your story, a little bit of Dome's story and how you all came to be involved and really what's the opportunity for people to get involved here, because it's just such a fabulous concept. Christian, thanks for taking the time. It's great to be connected.
Oh, thanks, Patrick. It's nice for you to be having us in this conversation. I'm really looking forward to talk about Dome. Talking with you.
Well, man, I mean, it's such a cool concept, such a cool project.
Yeah, thanks.
And literally, I was there earlier this week with Sunday, your project manager, and he got to show me around, and we actually sat up on the roof of one of these rammed earth domes, totally sustainably built, just amazing structures and just beautiful, stunning to build. So I want to hear a little bit more about that down the track. But before we launch into all of that, I'd love to hear about a little bit about you. Who are you, and how'd you come to be involved with all this?
Well, the reason I got connected with David through Indonesia is that we both had a common friend, which was, I was working as a pilot back in the days, and this friend was a pilot colleague from flight school, and then we flew together, and he had a surfing school in Lombok, and I went regularly to Indonesia to surf.
Right on.
And through him, I got connected with David, and I had flown for many years and started feeling like I wasn't really satisfied with sitting, earning money, and just puking out a lot of jet fuel into the atmosphere without really doing anything else. Sure. So I had started talking a lot about these things and reading a lot about sustainable projects, and feeling I wanted to, the general feeling of wanting to do something. And Kalle had hooked up with David that already bought the land. And together, me and David decided to go to a building course in California, where you learn how to build domes.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and that was actually the first time we really had the chance to meet. I only met him on short occasions before a few times. So we met at Arlanda, which is the airport in Stockholm, and basically for the first time saying, okay, let's do this, let's go.
They flew from there all the way to California.
Yeah, we sat in the airplane drinking wine and talking about what we're doing, and maybe watching a movie and being, getting to know each other. And those 3 weeks it was really, really good weeks. I mean, we got to learn how to build domes out in the desert outside of California, or outside of Los Angeles, and doing a permaculture design course. Living in the domes that they had on the test site, and living in tents, and just meeting a lot of other people, connecting with people from around the earth, and good experience.
What year was that?
2012, in the autumn of 2012.
Okay.
I think it was. Yeah,
this was some time ago.
Yeah, it was. And then we got back, and me, David, and started this project. Went down to Indonesia in the summer the next year, and started gathering our people. And in the beginning, we were really enthusiastic, and we had a lot of ideas about how we were supposed to do things.
Yeah.
So now when I look at the videos, we gather up a bunch of people that were sitting taking out the coconut husks from coconuts, because we were thinking we were going to use that for something, but that idea we tried a lot of ideas down the road before we got to where we are now. But we had a lot of fun, for sure.
It's always the way, isn't it? You head out with this idea in mind, you go, this is great, this is how it's going to be, and then you get there and this thing called reality happens.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah. And you find out what works and what doesn't. And
a lot of people quit when that happens, and they go, this isn't what I thought it was. It's too hard and we don't know what to do, and we're out of here. But all these years
Yeah.
later, you guys are still at it, still doing it.
Yeah, a lot of people quit, and well, I have to say there were a few times where we were thinking about if we should continue or not. I mean,
Sure.
starting up a project on the other side of the planet, this kind of project, I mean, everybody in the village thought we were completely nuts. They called it the Rumagilla, where is the crazy houses.
And they're probably right, a little bit, because
Yeah,
all the best ones are.
Yeah, they never seen anything like it, but eventually they saw how it looked like when it was finished.
Yeah.
And now a lot of the guys working for us, they said, I want to build a house like this also.
Nice.
So no, we're happy we stayed in. And,
well, what was it that kept you going through those challenges when it was really tough? And I've heard, I heard from Sunnes some real horror stories, that when the rains come and there's mudslides and the whole thing sliding down the hill, and there's been some really solid challenges, you could say. What was it that kept you going through all that?
What kept us going through that was, I mean, first of all, it was always that me and David and Sanne, through good and bad times, always had a lot of fun together. We really like each other.
Nice. That helps.
Yeah, for sure. Feeling that it's good guys I'm working with. Second of all, we always had the feeling that this is a really good project. We really believe in what we're doing. And even though it's really challenging, I mean, getting off the beaten track and walking your own path, I mean, it is challenging sometimes, and you just need to keep on going.
Nice.
So yeah, there were a few times me and David, we were sitting down before Sunday came in, even sitting like, okay, should we continue this? And like, yeah, let's do it.
Nice.
We just
I find it so often when people have got a good idea to make some money, they'll start off on a project and they'll work together with some good guys, and then reality happens, challenges kick in, and they start blaming each other, and things don't work out, and usually projects can disband pretty quickly, even amongst tight friends, and we lose friendships, we lose business opportunities, and it all kind of goes down. But the big thing I find, and see if this relates to you or not at all, but when there's a greater purpose to the project other than just making money or having some fun or whatever, but when it's like, this is actually really important work that we believe in, that we believe is important for humanity and the planet right now, then when the challenges come up and we're not sure how it's going to work out, then we just go, we get resourceful and we dig in and we go, we have to do this. This is ours to do. And we kind of get, we really dig in and make it happen. So I see that a lot with a lot of the speakers and a lot of the people that I get connected with. But did you have an experience of that as well?
Yeah, we definitely had experiences of meeting difficulties.
So the real thing is, like, what I'm thinking is when the purpose of the project is to make some money, as a lot of businesses start out with the idea to do, and there's nothing wrong with that. When it gets really tough, what I find is, what many people find is that money's not enough to keep them going. But when the purpose of the project is to do really good work for people on the planet, and we're going to make some money as well, then when it gets tough, it's like, this is important work that we believe in, and we're not just going to quit just because it's hard. We're going to keep going because the work's really important, and there's a greater purpose than just doing a project. So the question was, for you guys, did you have that sense of, hey, this is really important work, there was some sense of purpose in it? And if that's the case, what was that?
Yeah, well, what kept us going was for sure that we felt a sense of purpose with what we're doing. And from the beginning, when me and David started this, of course we were stoked on building domes and trying this thing out.
Yep.
But also the thing of trying to find an alternative way of building houses, and how can you do this? Minimizing the ecological footprint of building a house and how we can live.
Gotcha.
And Indonesia is more or less a testing ground to learn these things. I mean, it wouldn't be possible here in Europe to do these kind of constructions at the moment, at least.
Sure.
Both financially for me and David, since we don't take any loans, we don't have any big investors coming in. We did it ourselves.
Yep.
So in Indonesia, you can get further with it. But then once we've done this, we wanted to share the knowledge we gain from building these houses, and try to spread this, doing projects on other places. Maybe tweak them for the climate here in Sweden and Europe, and start building a project here, showing people that you can live a really good life in something else than the concrete boxes that people are used to seeing.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So I want to hear a little bit more about, why domes, because most, like you say, are concrete boxes, and how that construction happens and what that's all about. But before we jump into that, you came from like quite a successful modeling career before that, as I understand. Is that right?
Yeah.
Rugged Scandinavian good looks and...
Yeah. Yeah, I had a modeling career before. It just kind of happened, actually. A friend called me and said if I wanted to do a modeling thing. It was right after a trip to Indonesia, and I'd been around for 6 months surfing.
Mm-hmm.
I'd quit my pilot job, and I came home, and I was pretty broke. And a friend called and said, "We give you some clothes and some food." And I was like, "Yeah, the food sounds nice.
Sounds great.
New
Clothes are a bonus."
Yeah. And afterwards, they tell, "Oh, these photos looks great. You should send them in." And about 6 months after, I think I did. Yeah, I did. And the rest is history. It turned out really good. Yeah.
But did you say a pilot before that?
Yeah.
Like airline pilot?
Yes.
Yeah, right on. They're full of hidden gems of skills and background, huh?
No, I was always completely obsessed with airplanes. I mean, in my teenage years or earlier, I was building models and flying, airplane computer games in my pilot jacket.
Yeah, that's so cool.
And started flying when I was a teenager. And when I was 20, I got my first job and started working as a commercial pilot.
Of course, from the cockpit, you get an interesting perspective on Earth, right? Because you're up so high and you can look down and you can see Earth from a perspective that, most people don't. We get to see it occasionally when we're traveling, but you're back and forth all the time looking at this stuff. Did you reckon that had an impact on the work that you're doing now and the heart you have for our planet?
Yeah, I think that, working as a pilot, looking down on the planet, sitting there for hours, and sometimes you see storms or thunderclouds.
Mm-hmm.
You fly over a country and you have like a lot of storm clouds, and you see all these little lightnings going through the clouds underneath you, and sunsets and sunrises, mountains. Yeah, it's a lot of beautiful things to look at, and you see a lot when you spend a lot of hours up there. I think I really think it impacted me. You see a bigger picture somehow. Gives a bit of perspective.
So from that perspective, and not just from that, but from what you know about what's going on now, what do you see as some of the biggest challenges that we're facing humanity and the planet? When we kind of look at, we zoom out and get that global perspective, what are we actually dealing with? And I don't want to get to, we're not going to have a big focus on all the problems of the world today, but just in a nutshell, what do you see as the big ones?
Ooh, what's the big challenge or big problems we're facing in the planet today? That's a big one. It almost gets down to a philosophical question, I think, but
okay.
I do believe that we have built up a financial system that is not really healthy for the planet, of course. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure if I want to say that money is the problem, but rather how we view money and what we need money for.
Yeah.
Which kind of ends up being the system that we're in.
Yeah.
Where the money itself is just the end goal, and everything to get there is accepted.
I mean, it's really cool, and I get, we don't want to focus on the negative too much, but it's really interesting that a lot of the people I'm speaking to, when I kind of dreamed this summit up, I thought we'd be talking about, pollution and the ocean and the airs and deforestation and, the landfills and a lot of, those kind of real environmental crisis issues, the melting ice caps and the acidification of the ocean and all this kind of stuff. And it's kind of shocked me to see, and you know, in one sense it shocked me to see how many, but in the other sense it was totally makes sense how many people are talking about, you know, actually the problem is the system, it's society and culture, and this kind of weird thing that we've got into where it's all about, you know, money and not taking care of people and not taking care of the planet. And you know, it's a very interesting system it's kind of sick, it's kind of cancerous in a lot of ways, and it's not really serving humanity, certainly not moving forward, and it's not built on anything that's going to be able to last long term.
Yeah, and it's so sad because I don't think it's inherent in human nature to destroy the planet. I think, sure. I'm not sure you're going to use this, but I think that there are certain different ways of controlling masses. And I think that the capitalistic system that's built up right now, it's one of the systems to control people. I mean, through consumption, to keep people satisfied and happy and chase something and not question too much. And I think that's the kind of society we're in right now, where the health of the planet is a cost that we're set up to be willing to pay for continuation of a certain structure. Yeah, that's what I think.
I hear you. And like I said, a lot of people echoing that same sentiment.
Yeah.
On one hand, it's tragedy, but on the other hand, it gives us an interesting opportunity, right?
Yeah, exactly. We have to focus on what we can do and try to work from there. Yeah. I mean, every little change makes a difference.
So tell me about this dome project, and tell me, I mean, I'm interested in a bunch of things, like why domes for starters, when, as you mentioned, most people live in boxes with straight edges and you've got a dome with all round edges. I'm excited about that. But really, you know, probably just before we get into that kind of detail, how does building domes answer to this big challenge of this system, of this society and culture, of this money-driven commercialization kind of thing that we've got going on that's creating some real problems? How do domes answer that?
I think the answer with the domes to compared to boxes is that trying to learn how to build them in the most efficient way, and getting down the costs. I mean, making affordable houses with materials that you don't have to bring in from all over the planet, but they can use the local materials around. I think that gives a feeling of, I mean, to be able to build your own house, to be able to build your own affordable house is something. Yeah, I lost it there.
I can imagine there'd be a lot of satisfaction for people in that, to live in a home and they say, I built it. I mean, you hear about our grandparents and our great-grandparents. Your grandpa built this house with his bare hands, with bricks and mortar, and you know, there's such a pride and such a satisfaction in being able to do that.
Yeah, I think so. And also, I mean, it's a lot of things with the domes. First of all, the how durable they are. I mean, they're earthquake, tsunami, hurricane proof.
Wow.
Yeah, the dome structure itself is a really, really, how do you say, is it the word durable construction?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Yeah, extremely durable. So building these dome shapes in together with different rooms in many parts of the planet is very good house to build. I mean, in the Nepali earthquake that was a few years ago, complete devastation for the country itself, but they had an orphanage built out of domes.
Oh, really?
Up in the mountains, and the only thing they needed to do after the earthquake was put on new plaster on the domes.
Oh, wow.
Everything completely untouched by the earthquake.
Wow.
So building more of these houses, it's affordable for people, especially in the third world countries. You don't use the main material is soil, earth, sand, and gravel, which you find everywhere, and there's plentiful of that building material around.
How do they build? How does that work?
Well, you build the dome with you take sandbags, which you can find everywhere.
Yep.
And the original idea of the domes with sandbags and barbed wire was you take the some of the ingredients of war and you turn it
Okay.
into something beautiful instead.
Wow.
So you take these sandbags and you fill them up with sand, gravel, and pebbles.
Yep.
And you mix it with water, so you get this kind of sludge that you pour down in the sandbags. You put them in rings, you compact them, you stomp on them with a tool, which you can build out of anything, really. We used this stomping tool. Can be, you take a bucket and you fill it up with concrete, and you put down a bamboo stick with nails.
Yeah.
And then you let it dry out, and then you take away the bucket, and then you have a stomping tool that you can use for building houses.
So simple.
Yeah, it's really simple.
And this big stomping concrete club, that's your main construction tool.
Yeah. And then you put the barbed wire in between, and then you make the next ring of compacted sandbags. And
the barbed wire just holds it all together, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, makes sense.
Barbed wire and the rings itself holds it together. And once you have a dome, then you have a.
So you just build the whole thing around with these bags of sludgy sandbags with concrete, and it kind of builds up like an igloo, I guess, like they do with the ice cubes, until it gets to the top, and then it's all solid. Yeah,
exactly. Wow. And for the safety of it, we use 10% of kapur, limestone.
Mm-hmm.
But there are buildings in the test site in California with CalEarth where they built them with only earth, sand, and gravel, nothing else, and sandbags 20 years ago, and it's still standing through earthquakes and stuff. So you don't really need it, but just to be sure.
To be sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And
a bit of limestone that kind of acts like a cement and kind of binds it all together, right? Makes it set really hard.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay, cool.
So limestone is basically unprocessed cement.
Uh-huh.
And the limestone we can find from villages around in Lombok, close to us. Yep. So we have them prepare the limestone locally, and we go there and we get it, and we use it for our building site.
Well done.
Yeah.
So what's the concept for Dome Lombok then? This development site that you've got. You've got this amazing site right on the side of this hill with these views that just go on forever of jungles and virgin palm forests into mountains and bays and oceans and coral seas, and it's just, I mean, I stood there watching the sunset. It was just blowing my mind. and it's so beautiful. But you've got this whole side of this hill here, and the road to get up it is like, it's steep. So we've got this section. What's the concept there? What's the whole idea? What's the vision?
With the steep section of the road, or you mean?
For the whole development.
The whole development. The idea for the development is to build around 19 domes.
Mm-hmm.
We want to build an eco-vegetarian restaurant, which we have started on now.
Yeah.
We want to make it into, of course, we want to be able to take guests that can come and live there and see how you can live in these houses and kind of spread the word of how you can live in an alternative but good way.
Mm-hmm.
But also be able to have workshops, courses, things like this, having a yoga shala that can work as a workshop area.
Mm-hmm.
When I have co-working spaces for people, maybe a lot of people working in Bali that only needs their laptop, working for Google or whatever.
Yep.
They can come over to Lombok, and they can hang out at our location, do yoga, surf, and work on whatever they're doing, but at our land, be inspired by the domes and the shapes. And once the whole village is up with all these domes everywhere and pathways, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how it's going to look like. I think it's going to be something special.
Yeah, it really will. Yeah, it's going to be just exquisite. So really, I mean, this doesn't sound like a permanent residency type situation, but it's not a holiday situation either. You imagine people are going to come and stay for a few months and then go somewhere else. It's really, there's a lot of this digital nomad concept is really taking off. Lots of people who are going, I've just realized I don't have to be in the office all day, every day to be able to do my job. With the internet, with technology, you can be in Stockholm, I can be in Bali, we can have a conversation. Maybe I could do that for my weekly meetings, and I could do my work from home. And they kind of figure that out, and that works. And then they go, well, where do I want my home to be? Because now my home doesn't have to be a function of my work. I can live anywhere. And we get lots of people coming over to, especially to Indonesia, but to all sorts of beautiful tropical places all over the world, going, this is just a beautiful place to be. It nurtures my soul to be here. It's good for my body. There's tons of fresh fruit and veggies and sunshine and warmth and pristine coral seas. And I can still provide value to a market that pays me, and I can do what I'm trained to do.
And it's also important, I think, to do these kind of projects where, because I mean, we live in a more digitalized world.
Sure.
And the world gets smaller, but at the same time, we become more and more disconnected from nature itself. And it's good to have these places, I think, trying to have like permaculture and being able to be close to nature to maintain that connection. And I also think that if you're working, especially with creative jobs, that's where you find good inspiration, if you manage to get grounded and connect a little bit.
What do you
Not only work with your head.
Yeah. What do you see as some of the symptoms of that disconnection from nature, from the way that, mankind's been living on Earth for a very long time?
I think the symptom of that disconnection is really the consumer society we're living in right now. We don't have any, we kind of know what we're doing, but we play such a small part. At least we think so. But I mean, it's the problem of a more globalized world also. If I go out and I see that the trees in my backyard are getting chopped down and the birds are disappearing, then I start making a change. I don't want that to happen. But if I buy something that affects something on the other side of the planet, I think the human mind works a little bit. We don't really see it. Paradoxical problem with the globalization and how we live our lives. I mean, it's great with internet and the smaller planet, and we can be whatever we want to. But there's somewhere it's missing this thing with farming the land, or you see the differences and you see plants growing, and I don't know. It's the disconnection from nature is a big problem, I think.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. And it's really interesting. I had a conversation with a guy this morning who, for 20 years, he's an urban planning and he's town architect, and he designs cities for councils and towns. It's his career. It's his job. Very, very good. Yeah. Super well connected. And he's been studying for 20 years the psychological impact on humans of city and urban living. And he's watching. It was fascinating. And it's amazing. Yeah. This kind of come up in our conversation now, because I was just had that conversation. And he said he's been watching the correlation between increased urbanization and increased depression rates and sickness rates and disease rates. And he's looking at all this stuff and going, what is this thing with this depression that, students are getting and athletes are getting, and people who we typically think about as fit and healthy and strong, and executives who are driven and focused, and mums and like everybody's got this kind of, well, not everybody's got it, but there's a huge increase in the spectrum of people who are getting this thing. And he says it's not really depression, it's disconnection from nature and everything that actually matters to mankind. And it was really, really interesting. So what we're really talking about here is an opportunity with Dome, is an opportunity to build your house out of earth and learn how to do that and connect, get your hands in the dirt and grow food that grows in your garden, not on some, massive monocrop farm on the other side of the country or the other side of the world, processed and packaged. And isn't there something so satisfying about eating food from your own garden? And I remember when we threw some tomatoes on the dirt and they just kind of grew. And the next thing we had these little cherry tomatoes out there. I remember the look on the kids' face when they could taste them and just, this is the best tomatoes ever. This is amazing, because we'd seen the little shoots come up and we'd watched the whole process.
Yeah, that's how tomatoes taste. Amazing.
Wow, right? Yeah. It's something so satisfying for us about that we don't get from you know, a new flat screen TV or a new, you know, that's exciting too for the moment, but it's a different kind of fulfillment from that.
Yeah, and it's also what you were speaking about with depression rates going up, and we don't really use any gardens in the cities anymore, in urban areas. It's the green areas we have are a few parks with well cut lawns,
Yes,
and
manicured grass.
yeah, and kids don't really learn anything about these things in school
Generally.
I think a small, easier change for our society here would be to of course, starting with the kids, teaching them these things that our grandparents basically knew when they were growing their own potato. I think that's an easy way to learn how to connect with nature. And maybe, you know, we could still have these concrete boxes, but maybe build a dome every here and there and have
So
a few
cool.
gardens. Yeah.
Well, what I love about the domes is, you know, I mean, the shape is fabulous and they just look so unique. They look really, you know, they're just stunning. They're beautiful. They really are.
And it's amazing to be inside of them. And
the feeling inside, I mean, they're cool. And what I love is that you're building it out of stuff that we just find right here. Like you can literally find a piece of earth, dig it up and build your house out of what you've just dug. You know what I mean? Like it's all right there. So from a sustainability point of view, it's fabulous. I mean, you've got water catchment, you can have your own gardens, you can really live in a way that is comfortable, is economical. And, you know, we could live like that for generations to come without a worry in the wide world. There's not a huge ecological impact from building and living that way, which is beautiful, right?
Yeah. And the idea is, of course, to the further along down the path we go, start implementing this more with the permaculture ideas and aquaponics, and just continuing trying to tweak it out in the best way possible see what we can do with it, basically.
Yeah. We've talked a bit about permaculture. I just want to make a few definitions just for people who are watching this in case they're, you know, working on what that is. And permaculture is basically permanent agriculture, right? As opposed to like monoculture crops or chemical farming, where you've got one big thing and we just grow that and there's loads of chemicals to keep it working. Permaculture is kind of how a forest grows it looks like a big mess, but everything just thrives in that. And each plant supports each other. And you mentioned aquaponics as well, which I've just found out about, which is really cool, which is basically a fish pond, right? And the fish feed the plants and the plants feed the fish, and it all kind of works, and you can use it to purify water and you can grow food, and you've got I mean, it's just amazing how those ecologies form in water. Yeah,
I think both of these principles and systems is built around building an ecosystem.
Yeah.
I mean, in contrast to traditional agriculture, which is basically like fighting against nature with pesticides, and permaculture is more trying to work with nature, creating an ecosystem. If you have snails, don't try to kill them with pesticides. Implement ducks into your gardens that eat the snails, and they take a crap every once in a while, which is good for the plants. And
it's perfect. I love this idea of ecologies, because it's and it's in stark contrast actually to this what we were talking about before, which is an economy. And you look at an economy, it's the economy. I mean, the word means that the management of scarce resources. So economy says there's not enough, and for me to have more, you've got to have less. And if you've got more, then I've got less. And it's like supply and demand, and it drives competition. And that's kind of the whole game that we're playing. Whereas you go to nature and you look, you never see economy, you see ecologies, and ecologies is sustainability. It's where everything's thriving. And so you go into the rainforest, there's no scarcity there. There's enough, there's abundance for everything. And there's life and there's harsh, and it's amazing. But that's those ecological systems that are, you know, so natural, and that we're naturally part of, and so, you know, opposite to this economic system that we've kind of somehow got into. I think of, you remember Back to the Future, where he goes and then they've got that magazine, and they slip into this alternate future that we never were supposed to be in, and it's all, everything's, you know, that bad guy's ruling everything, and I kind of feel like we've slipped into this alternative reality that, oh, hang on, how did we get like this, right? This isn't how it was meant to be, and we need to go back to the future to what happened.
For sure. the system that we're living in right now, it's like if you view animals at zoos, living in this concrete environment. You have depressed animals. I think it's the same with people. I mean, the disconnected way we live in these houses, back and forth from work. We go to the store to get what we need, and we live in this. We live in a prison with glass walls, basically, that we built for ourselves, and we try to comfort ourselves with earning more money, buying more stuff, to almost use a phrase from Fight Club. But I think trying to do these kind of projects, permaculture, finding out how to build domes and building a house in a sustainable way, and finding alternative ways of how we can live our lives. I mean, this is also something that I felt was really important stuff that we were doing, and that what made me keep on going.
Yeah, I hear you. And what a powerful metaphor to look at depressed animals in concrete jungles in the zoo, completely out of their natural environment, their natural ability to be able to migrate and forage and, do all the things that animals naturally do. And then we go and we've created this same kind of zoo for ourselves.
Yeah.
Whoa.
We're just animals also.
Yeah. And we, for sure, have had a long time on Earth of migrating and foraging and meeting different people in different climates and cultures and doing different things and walking, right? And not sitting.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? And moving around with the seasons and traveling as far in a day as we can walk in a day, not halfway around the world in a day. There's a lot about our way of living that's really unnatural, and our biology, our physiology hasn't been able to necessarily adjust to that, and our psychology as well. And that's where the emotional, the angst of it all. Yeah. And we see so much evidence for that. Wow. Powerful. So, man, with all that in mind, tell me, what's the if anybody watching this who's going, this is, for some people, this is crazy talk, right? But for others, people are going to resonate with this, and they're going to go, I get it. I'm feeling that. And I don't want to live like that. I don't want my kids growing up like that. So what's the opportunity for someone to, say someone's watching this and they're loving this idea of the domes. They're really relating to a lot of the challenges that we're talking about. And they're thinking, I don't want to live like that. I don't want my children to grow up with this kind of stress and this kind of disconnection. And we want to get out of the city, but, we need to be here. We've got family and friends here and we're traveling. And, what's the opportunity for someone to get involved with a dome, and, what's the deal there? What's that look like? Because I'm fascinated. I think it's really, really cool. I'd love to hear.
I'm happy you're asking. Yeah. Well, the idea around dome is that people can get involved through, we're having timeshares that we're selling. So you can buy a lease on the dome for 50 years, which gives you a specific time during a year that you can come and live in your house. And the rest of the time we rent it out to guests that want to come and live. So that's also a way you can come and just rent one of the houses for any time you want. And we split the rent out revenue 50-50. We take all the costs, and the investor or the person buying the lease gets the rent out revenue. So within a few years, this investment has been repaid, and you for many years you have a house to regularly come back to, and you can see how the garden is growing, and you can do your surfing and also we are right now working on ideas to have dome building workshops, courses.
Wow, cool.
Permaculture courses, which is coming up this summer. I know Gazelle and Son is forming an idea around this, and so there are a few ways.
Awesome. So what I'm hearing is, if I wanted to learn how to do this, I can come and do a course over there in Lombok. That would be awesome.
Yeah, exactly.
If I just wanted to come and stay in a dome and check it out and feel it, I can come and rent it out. And I know that part of that money is going to, cost of maintaining the facilities. And the other part of the money is going to someone who invested in a dome, who also comes and lives here, and they're actually connected to the idea. So it's not like it's going to some corporation or, just making some money. So that's really cool. Or of course, then there's the opportunity to say, if I'm going to be over there for a month every year anyway, I could actually buy one of these things on a 50-year lease, come and stay there for a month, and then it's an investment opportunity because I know that I'm going to be getting the revenue for that for the next 50 years.
Yeah.
And of course, if I wanted to stay more than a month, could I rent my own dome back at half price? Because, you know, I'd just be paying myself half the money anyway. So you can kind of get half price on the extra months if you wanted to stay.
Yeah, exactly.
Perfect.
Yeah, we already sold 6 houses, and I'm really, I love these people that were the first ones out, seeing like, I love what these guys are doing.
Yeah.
They still hadn't started building houses. We only built 1 test dome, but they still believed in us and put their investments in. And as we speak, we're building their houses. The company is taking shape, and, you know.
Yeah. So what kind of people are doing that? Who are they? Just give us an example of the sort of people who might want to do that.
I love that you asked that, because one of the first customers we had was a friend of David, which is she worked her whole life as a cleaning lady. And she took her life's savings and decided I'm going to invest it in Dome. I love what these guys are doing, and I'm taking it and I'm investing in this. So having a person like that investing her life savings was also something that made us feel like, wow, now we have an obligation for sure.
We have to do this. Can't let her down, right?
No, really don't want to let her down. So, and yeah, it's a great satisfaction seeing all of this coming together for us, of course, but also for people like her that believed in us and invested. We're the first investors.
Unreal.
Yeah.
Wow. And of course, anybody who's watching this, who's looking to get in touch with you guys, I'm happy to take calls and introduce you and answer any questions. I'll get all the information and be able to step through that with people. Yeah. And I'm really looking forward to introducing you to people who are just going to love this concept, because it's so cool.
Yeah, and it's hard to put words on it, and it's even hard to see it on photos. You kind of have to be there to see the view and see the domes.
Agree. Well, before I got over there last week, I checked it out pretty carefully online. I looked at lots of photos. I looked at videos of Dome. I looked at the guys in California that mentioned who were building it. And I kind of checked it all out. And I thought I knew what I was in for, what to expect when I got there, right?
Yeah.
And you get there and you touch this thing and it's earth. And you know, walking up the stairs, we're sitting on top of it. We're inside in this bedroom with these big round walls. It's just majestic. Like, it's so magnificent. And you can't really experience that on a video or a photo. And you're right, when you're there, it is such a magical experience to be in the presence of such a majestic architectural, you know, brilliant, but still so simple, so, you know, just so elegant structure. It's really something very, very special.
And we just got started.
Well, Sunny mentioned that too. He said when I first started doing the design, they were very, very basic. A dome, a door, and some stuff. He said now, like, we've got big 3-story things with mezzanine levels and spiral staircases and like, wow.
Yeah, it's nice to see him flowering out. He's going bananas now.
I mean, he was getting so excited too. You can really feel his heart in it and his passion for it.
Yeah, no, I mean, Sonny, he's a fighter. He's really been putting this together, and a lot of credit to him for I mean, me and David put the foundation, but we just didn't have what it took to take it a bit further. And then Sonny came in, and we met him on 2 different, I mean, completely separate. Me and David met him, and suddenly we were all connected, and Sonny was available to start. He was loving the thing, and we were looking for a project manager, and it was just meant to be. And then he got down there, and I think many times he got a shock out of what he was in for. I mean, he's an awesome guy with an excellent eye for quality, and he's a fighter. So he really took the project even further, and from there we started. He was one of the missing pieces in the team that me and David needed.
Nice.
We both had the ideas, but we didn't have the design, the eye for design that he does. I mean, David is a visionary with a good sense of taking a seed and working with it, the idea, and making people enthusiastic and finding people and connecting. I think my strengths are more into like the visuals, not building itself, but maybe branding.
Yeah.
A little bit.
How do
Building
we actually
websites.
communicate this? How do we take this to the people in a way that they can get what it is? Yeah, nice.
Yeah, exactly.
So important.
And Son is just, he's the spider in the middle of the web now.
Right on. You mentioned that he's got an eye for quality and an eye for detail. And, one of the things that really stood out to me about Sonny that I really admire was he's just not willing to compromise on anything. It's like, this is how it needs to be. And although it seems impossible, we're going to find a way to make it like that because that's how it needs to be. And it was, it really came through, and there's such admiration for people who are working with, projects like this that are inherently challenging, and being able to hold such a high standard and not take the easy route when there's options there to cheat and cut corners and do things, that would seem expedient in the short term. And he's just gone, we're going to do it right. And we're going to, find a way to get it done.
Yeah. No. Yeah. I really, again, I want to give credit to him. I think it's been frustrating sometimes being down in Indonesia. You know yourself how it can be in Indonesia. It can be tough. It's warm. It's messy, but he fought through and did an excellent job.
Christian, I'm so grateful for this time together. Thank you so much for sharing so openly, and we've covered so much on this. It's been fabulous.
We really did.
Really, man. From philosophy to construction to everything in between. It's been fabulous. So tell me, any final thoughts, any comments, any observations before we wrap up? Any last things you'd love to share?
No, I don't think so.
Right on.
Anything you think I should be mentioning?
I'm feeling great. I mean, this is more than I could have imagined. It's brilliant.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I never know who's going to show up on the other end of a call, right? So
no, exactly.
Every now and then, magic like this happens, and it's fabulous. Yeah. So I'm very grateful. And,
I don't know if how you feel about this material, if you can use it, or sometimes maybe we were a little bit too far out.
No, it's perfect. I feel very complete. And the thing is, while some of the stuff was pretty far out, a lot of the people that are watching this, are talking to this, they're going to be hearing this for the first time. And they're going to be going, what are these guys talking about? And they're going to get fascinated, and they're going to go and research, and they're going to learn a whole lot. It's going to be an amazing journey for them. And other people are well down that journey already, and they know exactly what we're talking about. And they go, they see the problems, and they see, all the stuff for what it is. And they're ready to go and do something like this. And they're going to say, I'm out of here. I want to go and be in a dome. I want to travel. I want to do some different stuff. And everything in between, and there's people who are watching this who are already doing that, already creating projects like what you're creating. And this is just encouragement to them to go, thank God I'm not the only ones. These guys have got challenges as well, and they're creating beautiful things. So, it's perfect that, what we've shared, and that everybody who's watching this is going to absolutely get, the encouragement, the inspiration that they need straight out of this.
No, and it is fun to see, like, I believe this project is really it's taking off right now, and we're selling the domes. It's going quite fast now, and I think that the people that do make an investment into this, they're not going to regret it. They're investing in a good cause.
Yep.
It's going to be a good return on their investments, and they get a dome in a completely awesome, beautiful place that they can come back to regularly for a long time.
I'll tell you what, man, I would not be talking to you if I had any doubt in my mind about that. If I thought there's anything sketchy, that's why I actually go and check it out and meet the people and look at it all and research all the things. And if I had any question in my mind that you weren't who you say you were, or this wasn't 100%, I'd be out of here. So, I'm giving my full confidence. I think it's fabulous what you're doing. No question at all. Awesome.
Thanks, man.
All right, man. Well, on that note, we'll wrap up. And thanks again. I'm glad we could take the time to get connected. And thanks for sharing so openly. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, it was really good talking to you.
Likewise. All right, brother. That's a wrap.
Take care.
See you soon, man.